Hello there, my name is Arthur, and I would like to introduce you to Cut2d Pro, which is the program that we use for preparing files for the Sync CNC. Once a sync is drawn in this program, it's imported to the computer that's on the machine, and after that you don't need to draw that sync anymore. You'll need to open up that file again to make modifications. But in this video, I just want to introduce you to Cut2d, not do anything in particular, just show you some of the tools that it has. So to create a new file, you just click the Create New File button. You're greeted with a job setup box where you can put in the width and height of the job that it's showing you. Usually we type in the size of the sink. In this case, we'll just leave it 20 by 20. You pick the origin position. This is the position where the 0, 0 point of the drawing is. If I select bottom left corner, the 0, 0 point will be bottom left. Usually we set it to the bottom middle of the sink. As you type in the numbers on the sides will show you where the origin is. So some of the tools that we will use often are drawing circle, drawing ellipse or oval, and drawing rectangle. So to draw a circle, you can click and drag, or you can type in the XY position. And it's important to select if you want to size it by radius or diameter. Once you draw a circle, you can actually go back and edit its size and diameter and position by clicking on it and clicking the circle tool. And once you're in the circle tool, you can edit other circles by clicking shift, holding shift, that's what's written here, and clicking on a circle. The ellipse tool works in a similar way. You can set the XY position and width and height. Something that might be annoying to other CAD users is to move stuff around. The first thing you have to do is click on the vector that you want to move around and click a second time to enable the move command, and then click and drag to actually move it around. The reason they set it up this way is so that people don't accidentally move stuff around when they're selecting stuff. Because this is a CAM program, it's very important where things are positioned. Another way to move stuff is to use the Move Selected Objects button. You click on it and you select the point on it where you want to move from. Like if I click center and move this to 0, 0, it'll move it to the origin point. Or if I click bottom left corner and move this to 0, 0, it'll move the bottom left corner to the origin point. To create rectangles, you have the option of adding radiuses, which you specify here as external radius, and you set the width and height here and XY position here. Some other tools are set size, which basically scales it, and rotate. Rotating is helpful if you have a complicated sink and you want to flip it around to be cut out uh, backwards. You type in an angle, click rotate, and it all works when you click apply. One tool that's sometimes convenient if you have already a sink design in there and you want to make it a little bit bigger or smaller, like add an overhang or add a reveal, is this offset tool. To use it, you just click it, type in how much you want to offset it, and the direction that you want to offset it. If you want to add an overhang to a sink, you want the actual cutout to be smaller, so you're going to offset it inwards. If you want a sink to have a reveal, you want the cutout hole to be bigger, so you add the offset outwards. So you type in distance, and when you click offset, it'll show you the new line. At that point, you can either delete the old line or you can save it for later. Another tool I want to show you is the curve fit tool, which is used for smoothing. If you have a drawing that's very rough, one of the things that you would want to do is use the curve fit tool to smooth it out. You select the line, click Bezier curves, which works the best for smoothing out sinks, and type in the tolerance that you want. If you set a very tight tolerance, it'll smooth it out very little. If you set a larger tolerance and click preview, it'll smooth it out a lot more, but sometimes it'll have odd artifacts. And 0.3 looks just right. I'm going to delete the old line, and we have this beautifully smooth new line. Now, if we try to cut this out, it won't work correctly, because for sinks we need to have the line joined completely. This one, it's not joined together. So to join it together, we use the Join Open Vectors button. And when we click on it, it'll show us that we have 0 closed vectors and 1 open vector. A closed vector is like this oval here. It's considered a closed vector because there's no holes in it. It goes in a full loop. This one, it has this gap right here. So to close this gap, we're going to increase the tolerance until this display right here shows that after joining, we'll have 1 closed vector. When we click join, it'll put the ends together and to make it closed. If this were a real sink, what we could do is make it perfectly symmetrical. If it turns out that we don't want to keep this odd part of the sink, we just want this same design to loop over to the side, we could cut this in half and copy this side over to the other side. So to do that, we would just draw a line where we want to cut it and use these scissors called interactive trim to cut off the part where we don't want it. Usually you can uncheck this line, which automatically joins the curves where you cut it. So now that we have our half, we can use the mirror selected objects button and we can mirror it. Once we have the two halves, we can select both of them and click join. For most normal cases, you can have a tolerance of 0.1 or 0.01, and that'll be sufficient. And as we see here, after joining, we'll be left with one closed curve. And I'd like to also show you how the rectangle selection tool works. To select an object, once you drag over it, it'll select all the objects inside of the rectangle that you drew. But if you drag right to left in the selection rectangle, it'll select all the objects that the selection rectangle even touched. Whereas dragging right to left, it'll only select the objects that are fully inside the rectangle. And for moving the view around, you use the middle mouse wheel to zoom out and zoom in. And you click and drag the middle mouse button to move the view around.